Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are diving deep in the story of the Excelsior Springs, Missouri kidnapping. Could there be more deaths? Now, granted, this is a kidnapping case, but now we're surrounded by, is he a serial killer? Is there something more to this story that we don't know? Thank you for joining me today, my friends. Let's go ahead and dive right into it, why don't we? Because we want to know what happened in this story. And Excelsior Springs, Missouri, that's close to Kansas City, like a little bit north of Kansas City, about 3+ hours from St. Louis, Missouri. Let's go ahead and dive into this story. Welcome back, my friends. In today's story, we are diving into the Excelsior Springs kidnapping. Young girl escapes when he goes to take his child to school. Yes, that means there's a child in this home. That even makes it more scarier because who knows how long he's been doing such heinous things. And so a 22-year-old woman who has not been identified, she was said to have been kidnapped and held captive for weeks in the basement of a Missouri man home who restrained, whipped, and raped her until she was able to escape the house of horrors Friday, October 7th, 2022. The victim fled the Excelsior Springs home of her alleged captor, Timothy Haslett Jr., who is 39 years old, after he left to take his child to school. This is according to police reports. She ran to a neighbor's home to help, allegedly appearing malnourished and wearing a metal dog collar with a padlock around her neck. And that's some of the most heinous things a person could possibly hear. This is Timothy Haslett Jr. And when she gets to the neighbors said the woman showed clear signs of abuse. And Sierra Tharp, she tells Kansas City-based NBC affiliate KSHB that her grandmother heard the woman banging on her door and yelling for help around 7:45 a.m. that morning. She says she heard a woman screaming and came knocking on the door. So she opened the door and the lady said, "You have to help me. I've been raped. I've been held captive." Tharp said. She's like, "You gotta help me." Poor little girl. Actually, she's 22 years old, so she's a woman, but she's still pretty young. Tharp's grandmother brought her into her home, wrapped her in a blanket, and gave her food and water. And Tharp says, "My grandma could tell she was weak. She didn't have a whole lot of clothes on. She said she had a metal collar, a metal dog collar around her neck and could see the ligature marks around her wrists." My gosh, that is terrible. And you can see right here, this is the home the 22-year-old woman was able to escape her alleged captor when he left the house to take his child to school. That means a child lives there. You can find Timothy Haslett on Facebook. And when I went through his profile a little bit, let me tell you, this guy sounds like an angry fella. He seems like he believes in violence, getting what you deserve, and things like that. Personally, I don't know him. I just know that this is a terrible, terrible thing that should never happen. And so the victim tells Tharp's grandmother and another neighbor that her abuser lived down the street and said she was afraid he would kill her if he found out she escaped. So now she's fearing for her death. She truly believes the end may be here. And she even says, if you call the cops, he's going to kill you too. But guess what? That did not deter them from calling. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It should not deter them from calling, right? Because at the end of the day, this creep deserves to be brought to justice. And here we are. This is an alleged story. Let me make that very clear. This is an alleged story. So, but I'm sharing what we know so far. Until he is actually convicted, it's just an alleged story until more comes out, right? Everyone gets their day in court. But from what we are finding out, it just is not looking very good. And you can see his profile right here. And the last time he posted, January 18th. And so it go through it a little. Timothy Haslett on Facebook, and if you go through it, you can see, and obviously a lot of people are now commenting. This person here, nobody really knows a person, even family. There's no reason to put his name on anything. Well, we didn't put his name on it. We didn't put his name on it. And you see people coming to their defense, and it's like, you think she lied with this dog collar? He has since been arrested. He is known to have some baggage in here in his life. Again, I get our point though. I get our point, but we didn't put his name on this, right? He is tied to this story, and everyone wants to know why he's tied to this story. And so that's exactly what's going on here. And so to me, personally, I think it's more important we get justice for this young woman. Now, could she be drumming up such a story? Well, we know that there are people who fake kidnapping, like that Sherry girl, Papini, right? And so we do know that it happens. But Tharp's grandmother, she called 911, and the woman was taken to the hospital in an ambulance. And here's the thing, on the way, she pointed to Haslett's home and identified it as the place that she had been held captive since early September. And I'm sure proof was in that home, because she said he kept her inside a small little room, so like a closet room in the basement. That alone adds credibility to the story. How would she know about that, right? And so she helped identify this home that she had been held captive at. Now, officers who responded to the call found the victim, who has not been identified for obvious reasons, and she was wearing latex lingerie, and a metal collar with a padlock around her neck. And this is according to court documents that were filed and obtained by local ABC affiliate KMBC. Now, she also had duct tape around her neck and marks on her wrist and ankles, proof of some captivity. Seriously, this is some upsetting stuff. So, warning, this is not for the faint of heart. The woman tells police that she had been picked up in Kansas City by a man named Timothy at the beginning of September. Since then, she said, she had been held hostage in a small room he had built in his basement, where she was restrained in handcuffs around her wrists and ankles. Now, I am not too sure what she means by picked up. Did he kidnap her off the street? We don't know all of that. But she did say that Haslett raped her repeatedly and frequently in the tiny basement, and that he also whipped her while she was restrained. I'm sorry you went through this. And to add to it, there's a child in this home. So emergency responders found injuries on her back that were consistent with being whipped. They also noted that the collar locked around her neck was restricting her breathing. And police executed a search warrant of Haslett's home and discovered the basement room the woman described. They also recovered multiple firearms from the home. Now, again, they really want to say that he's innocent. Again, everyone gets their day in court, so I get that. Everyone gets their day in court. Officers took Haslett into custody the same day his alleged victim escaped on an unrelated animal control violation. He has since been charged with rape, kidnapping, and assault, which basically means they saw proof in this girl's story. So, the victim was taken to a hospital for treatment and is listed in stable condition. She said there were other victims, though investigators have been unable to identify any. Tharp said the woman told her grandmother that Haslett killed her friends. She says, she made the comment that he killed my friends. They didn't make it. He killed my friends. She just kept repeating it. That sounds like trauma. Police said they are thoroughly investigating the possibility of additional victims, but have found no evidence. And so, the sex slave that was held for a month in a basement torture dungeon with a metal collar tight around her neck frantically insisted to rescuers that her captor killed two of my friends. This is according to an exclusive reveal by dailymail.com. And now police have confirmed that detectives are taking the claim seriously and are actively investigating whether other women met their death at the hands of Missouri monster Timothy Haslett. Oh my gosh. The young woman, still bleeding from wounds caused by being whipped and restrained, seized her chance to escape the house of horrors when alleged captor Timothy Haslett took his son to school that Friday morning. Wow. So she hurled barefoot out of the rundown rental property in Excelsior Springs, Missouri, and fled 100 yards downhill along a street diagonally facing the home in a quiet part of the 10,000 strong community 30 miles from Kansas City. Now, fearfully crouching down, the emaciated 22-year-old approached the single family. The emaciated 22-year-old approached the single family home of nurse Lisa Johnson and softly uttered just two words: "Help me." Now, Johnson, 41 years old, thank you, Lisa, for helping this girl. She had been sitting inside her front door getting ready for work at 7:40 in the morning on October 7th, and she heard the desperate plea. She looked out and saw the victim begin to crawl up the outside steps to the house. And this is the lady with her husband. And so she sees this lady crawling up the outside steps to the house. She shares with city council worker husband Thomas. And so you can see nurse Lisa Johnson pictured here. You can see her husband Thompson. They're both pictured here. They called 911. Lisa called 911. And it's like, then you see the home. This is where law enforcement has erected a fence around Haslett's rundown rental property where he had been holding the woman captive since December. And so the Johnson tells dailymail.com, "It was such a soft help me. And I looked out through our clear screen door, and this girl was hunched along the steps." Oh my gosh, this is sad. This is this poor lady. I could see immediately she was in desperate trouble. She looked like something out of a horror movie. Man, this lady obviously has seen some horror movies to be able to make that correlation. And so she says she had a metal homemade device tied around her neck. There was duct tape that she had pulled off her face, which had been covering her mouth. Her wrists and ankles were messed up. You could tell she had been tied and whipped. The wounds over her body, wrists, and ankles were actually bleeding. Johnson, who specializes in home health care, continues, she was wearing a very, very short black latex dress, which appeared opened up in places. You could plainly see what she had been through. This is why they're referring to this as a sex dungeon in the basement and her as a sex slave. This guy, if this is turns out to be true, he needs to pay for a lifetime. And if they find out that he was a serial killer or something of the sort, because they have been tying him, people have been tying him to a serial killer, but no one has been confirming. You get these internet sleuths that'll tie anything together. Oh my God! Someone said that this lady's in a mental hospital. The law enforcement didn't say that, right? Like, and then all of a sudden everyone's running with this story. And so this is where it's like Lisa says, and she was clearly dehydrated and very malnourished, super skinny. She was maybe no more than 70 pounds, short hair, although not matted, not dirty. She says there were no tears. Honestly, I believe she was too devastated to produce them. When Johnson told the woman she was calling police, it sent a shudder down the victim's spine, even though she was desperately seeking sanctuary. And Johnson says, she said if I called the cops, he would kill both of us. And Johnson says, I said, who? The guy up the street. She said he had been holding her, wouldn't let her go, and that he was going to kill her, and he had killed her two friends. By the time Johnson had come back out of her home after calling 911, she saw the terrified woman slipping away off her driveway to her next door neighbor. She was scared that now he's going to come after both of us. And so this is like this is crazy. And so after entering the property, Excelsior Springs police said they found a room in the basement consistent with what the victim had described. That doesn't sound like a lie to me. That does not sound like a lie to me. And so the nurse said she hadn't said anything more about her friends or where she believed they had been killed. But she had no reason to lie about that, so I do believe her, and somewhere out there definitely could be more victims. We hope to find out if this is true or not true, because this home says a lot. And it's boarded up now because the police have boarded this up, maybe to keep everyone out, I'm not too sure. But it was a rental, so there is an owner tied to this home. The woman fled the home. She fled to the home of Sierra Tharp, whose grandmother was looking after her young son. And Tharp said, Grandma said she was sitting here and she heard a lady yelling. So she opened the door and the girl ran up and said, you've got to help me. I've been held captive. I've been raped. You've got to help me. He's going to end up killing me. And she says, my grandmother brought her in, wrapped a blanket around her, and went and got her some food and water. She was pretty hungry, and my grandma sat with her and held her until the police came. There's a few things that I find kind of ironic in a positive way. She first comes across a nurse who can potentially help the wounded victim, right? And I also notice she comes across a lot of women who are going to be very, very motherly to her, what she needs at that very moment. And I hope they were probably hugging her, helping her, feeling for her, probably even crying with her, because this was a traumatic moment. And so they stayed with her until the police came, but they said that until the police came, but it's also said that she was driving away and that's when she pointed. So maybe that was when the police took her to the hospital, is my guess. But again, this story is still developing. It's only like 8 days old at this time of this recording. Tharp continues, the girl said he had kept her down in the basement, and when she left, she assumed to take his son to school. She opened up the door, she let his dog run out the door, and she just took off. So she wasn't tied down, it sounds like. She actually said the guy killed more than just two. She said it was her friends, but she wasn't clear if something happened to them up there at the house or wherever he got her from or somewhere. So maybe she was with some friends when he took them captive. Again, still a developing story. And now, once I report on this, then I'm going to do my goal and best to keep you updated on this story. And so this is where it's like, does this really have to happen? And so, but Tharp says it's scary. The girl is lucky to be alive. She got to be so brave. Yeah, I would say so. I would say so. And Tharp said her grandmother, who does not want to be named publicly, revealed the woman was at times gasping for breath because the metal collar around her neck was so tight. And she says, I believe it was like one of those that has the prongs on the inside, according to Tharp. Police cut it off because she was having trouble breathing. She was frantic. She said she had been in the house since early September. My grandma said the facts never changed. What she told her was exactly what she told the officers. She told them exactly who did it and what house. Now, previously, Excelsior Springs police had said officially it had no knowledge of more victims. But a spokesman has now told DailyMail.com exclusively, we are taking this accusation of two more women victims seriously and are actively investigating it, which means that they might have found something that might detail that even further. But of course, the spokesperson did not get into that anymore. Haslett is alleged to have picked up the woman from the Prospect Avenue of Kansas City, an area notorious for prostitution. I'll leave that there. He was arrested on October 7th on his way back from taking his son to school in his gray Dodge Ram pickup truck. Cops hauled him in via a traffic stop on an unrelated animal control violation after the victim had identified his home to officers. And so the former railroad construction worker pleaded not guilty to first-degree rape, first-degree kidnapping, and second-degree assault. He did make an appearance at Clay County Court via video link and is now being held on a $500,000 bond. An Excelsior Springs police probable cause statement said of the victim, she was wearing latex lingerie and had a metal collar around the neck with a padlock. And it's like, we want to know what's going on. Now, police were still conducting door-to-door inquiries in the area as of 2 days ago of this video, and authorities confirmed they are now actively investigating whether Haslett may have had other victims. And like, wow. So she, said of the victim, she advised Timothy had kept her in a room in the basement that he had built. He kept her restrained in handcuffs on her wrists and ankles. And so, but do we know yet if it's confirmed whether there's more killings? Now, there have been some stories about whether this is a serial killer. We don't know. But we do find out that Haslett has numerous firearms in his residence. And upon entering the residence to clear it, Excelsior Springs police officers observed a room in the basement consistent with what the victim has described. That's why I believe there is some serious credibility around this story. To me, I believe her. I truly believe her. I don't care if she was a prostitute. That means nothing to me when it comes to this story. Do I believe that they need to live their life like that? Again, it's not for me to judge. I don't know what their childhood was like. I don't think that it should be a true profession, but I'm not here to judge her. I'm here to help get her story out there to hopefully prevent this from happening to someone else. And so the accused kidnapper, he married Lindsay Metcalf, who was 33 years old, in 2013 in Independence, Missouri, but the couple divorced in February 2016. This is according to records obtained by Daily Mail. Haslett had joint custody of his 8-year-old son and became the primary custodial parent. So I said 33 years old in 2013, but she's 33 today. But but they were married in 2013 and divorced 3 years later. The boy was in the home while his alleged crimes were taking place, according to close neighbors who did speak to DailyMail.com. Delana, she said that the boy had been staying with him and was there the week before he was arrested. Now, she lives next door to Haslett, so she sees this. And she says, it's chilling to think about that. Delana, who has lived near Haslett for nearly 7 years with her husband Kurt, described the accused as a definite loner. She said he had no real friends to speak of, definitely no girlfriends. He was strange, although I would not label him as the kind of person who was guilty of the crimes he is accused of. We saw no sign of any girl over there, nothing at all. Well, she was allegedly in a basement held captive. But how did she get out of that door? We don't know. Again, this is still early stages. She continues to say, oddly though, he had a habit of keeping his truck parked out on the road during the week, but every Friday he'd move it to the back of his property on the driveway in front of his garage. I wonder what that's about. Then on Sunday night, he would shift it back to the front. We thought that was strange. And Haslett told Delana he was quitting work in 2020 due to a heart condition. And immediately afterwards, she noticed he was receiving multiple parcel deliveries every day. She says it was non-stop. UPS, Amazon, FedEx, so many deliveries, up to 4 a day. There was always something getting delivered. All the windows and doors in Haslett's homes was boarded up when DailyMail.com went to visit. Police crime tapes surrounded it, all along with a perimeter fence erected by law enforcement. Now, as I showed you before, let's go back to that. A large kids' trampoline was in the yard and in the back where he parked his truck at weekends. There are mounds of junk and other detritus. Excelsior Springs police said everything outside is as we found it. It is very much an active crime scene. Even now. Now, again, officers were still conducting house-to-house inquiries. So, my friends, what do you think about this story? Because this is, let's be real. This is not good. This is not good at all. At all, this is not good. So now we want to know, is there more to this story? Well, right now, that's all we do know. That's all we do know at this time. And so now we want to know, police, what's going on here? Is there more to this story? We don't know. But as of now, he is arrested. He is being held. And that's probably why some don't want to give their name, because they don't know much. If you speak and all of a sudden he's back home on bail or something, everyone's going to be scared, right? Thank you, my friends, for joining me this morning. I look forward to serving you again. My whole purpose around this channel is to keep you updated on what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. My friends, if this is the type of story you like to follow, please hit that subscribe button. And if you got some value from this, even though I keep messing up my words a little here and there, that's the luxury of live. But I like to do these lives because it helps me produce more content. But my goal is to get better and better and better. So bear with me as I work on getting through these kinks, because I want to serve the audience. I want to give a voice to these victims. I want to get their stories out there to hopefully prevent this happening from someone else. There will always be violence. There will always be crime, but hopefully we can have a little less of it if we are a little more aware. But again, I can just walk outside and something bad can happen. That's how crazy this world is. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to serving you again. Peace. Have an amazing day, my